Hello, welcome to More Yoga with me, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're doing well and ready to get a little bit into the hip flexors. Yay! I'm not sure why I'm cheering so much. I think probably because mine are tight and could really do with with some releasing. Um, if you have something like a block or a thin cushion, or even a pillow or a rolled up towel or something like that that you could bring underneath you for the start of our class today, that's going to be really beneficial. If you don't have it, don't worry about it, but you're not going to get the same sort of release. So I know you have something, probably even within reach, that you that you can grab. And then yeah, let's come on down to our backs. Um, these sort of cork blocks can be a little bit high, or like the high, but the cork can also be a little bit firm. So we just want to play with it a little bit. So then we come down onto your back. Take a couple seconds just to take some windshield wipers through the legs. And then grab whatever you're going to be using. Now, again, this is about as high as I suggest using these yoga blocks. And you're going to bring it underneath your bum, or the pelvis rather, so that you can feel supported here. Right? So you don't want it under the low back. Take a little loop of the shoulder blades toward each other. And you're going to start to walk your legs away from you, extend them. So it's a back bend a little bit. And if it feels like it's too much on your low back, then that's where I want you to go down to something lower, if possible, if you have something lower. Definitely don't go any higher than the height of these blocks on their sort of lowest setting. And what this does is it starts to passively, using gravity, open through your hip flexors. So it's a little bit of a yin variation of a hip flexor release. And then once you've found a position that feels, relatively okay for, somewhere you can be for a few minutes, then for a few breaths, inhale through your nose. And exhale, sigh your breath away. A couple more. And then let go of your breath control. Find your natural breath. It could be shallow, it could be deep. Generally, your natural breath is going to be quite a bit shallower than you expect it to be. Right? Often when we come to yoga, we start taking these long, slow breaths. And I just want you to breathe naturally if you can. If you're feeling stuffed up, then by all means, you can breathe through your mouth instead of your nose. And then once you've been in a position like this for a while, and once gravity is starting to work on your body, you might need to make adjustments. Like maybe you inch your heels a little bit further away from you. Right? Your body will have lengthened a little bit here in this position. And then come back to stillness for a few more moments. Last couple breaths here. And then when you feel ready to, start to bring a little bit of movement back to the body, and then gently start to bend your knees. And keeping the prop underneath you, I want you to start to draw your knees toward you, because this always feels like kind of a nice low back stretch. Again, if you have a cork block like me, it can feel a little bit diggy now into the pelvis. But sometimes it's good to do a stretch and then a counter stretch. If you're not feeling much of anything in your low back, you could reach your legs up to the sky. You might point and flex to the ankles or toes. This feels really great for me with the knee drawn toward me, so I'm going to stay here for a couple more breaths, but go wherever you need to go. All right, and then bring your feet back down to the mat. Press into them to lift the hips up, remove anything out from underneath of you that's there. Come back onto your back, couple moments just with this sort of neutral spine. And then maybe take a little windshield wiper of your legs. All right, and then bring your feet back to hip width apart, parallel-ish, and close enough into your bum that you can tickle your heels with your fingertips. So we're setting up for a bridge pose. From here, start to press your heels into the floor, and as you inhale, lift your pelvis and spine up and away, and then exhale, slowly lower back down. And then inhale to lift up, and exhale, lower. So every time that you're at the top of your bridge, your hip flexors are getting a little bit of an opening, and they work eccentrically to control the, or say not eccentrically, they're just working to control the hips as they come down to the floor, right? Because they are flexing here, but not doing the main action of lowering the hips to the floor. Last couple breaths here. One full round. All right, and then when you come back down to the earth, take a couple seconds just to release. And then maybe roll to one side and press yourself up to hands and knees. Maybe you grab the backs of your thighs and play with rocking and rolling up and down your spine. Wherever you need to go will eventually meet on hands and knees. So sitting up with your knees underneath your hips, toes can be tucked or untucked behind you, and then hands outer shoulder width apart or wider. And then let's start to move through cat and cow. So as you inhale, lift your tailbone. Allow that movement to start to move into the low back as it starts to dip. You'll feel the chest sort of sinking towards the earth. Wrap the shoulder blades toward each other. Maybe you beam your heart forward. And then exhale, tuck your tailbone under, round through the spine, tuck your chin, press the floor away from you. And then inhale, ripple into cow. Exhale, round into cat. So a few more of these on your own time, on your own breath. And if there's any other movement that would feel good, feel free to add on. It could be a little wag of the tail from side to side. It could be these big barrel rolls through your chest. You could snake toward the floor. You could send your hips back toward your heels. Just go where you need to go. All right, and then come back to center. If you want to give your wrists a little shake out, a little break, then feel free to do so. And then from here, step your left leg back behind you. Now we're going to do a little bit of single knee balancing. So if you'd like to bring some padding underneath your right knee, now is a good time to do so. And then pause here. Press the floor away from you, belly button to spine. And then start to reach your left heel so far back that the foot naturally de-weights. And then just using the back line of the body, start to lift that left leg up. Now it's not going to lift super high because you don't want to dip into the low back, right? You want to keep your torso as still as possible as you do this. So belly button to spine, press the floor away from you, really starting to fire up the back of the leg. And so by firing up the glutes and also the hamstrings, you'll feel those working as well. It will help us release into the hip flexors a little bit more. Okay, and then bend that left knee and then start to lift the sole of the foot up to the sky. Again, try to keep your low back in neutral. If it dips a little bit here, that's okay. Last one. And then bring your left knee down to the earth. If you're using that padding, then switch sides, shake out your hands a little bit. Particularly if you're kneeling up on something, it starts to shift your weight forward a touch more into the hands. All right, and then fingers spread nice and wide, belly button to spine. Step your right leg back, press the floor away from you, get those activations going, and then reach that right heel so far back that the foot starts to de-weight. And then take those extensions on the right side. And again, you don't want to dip into the low back, so keep your torso as still as possible. The leg's not going to lift up maybe as much as you want it to, but that's okay. You're really isolating the glutes here and a little bit into the hamstrings. Okay, and then bend the right knee. Start to press the sole of the foot up to the sky. A few more here. All right, and then release your right leg to the floor. Or take a little wiggle or shake out. And then you might need to walk your hands forward or shuffle your knees back. On your inhale, shift into your plank pose. You could be on your knees or your toes or even your forearms if you wish. Wherever you are, squeeze your bum, squeeze the tops of the thighs, draw your low ribs to the sky so your hips aren't piking up, right? It's not downward facing dog. And you're also not dipping. You're at the top of a push-up. Last breath here. All right, you can always come down to your knees first. Exhale, lower all the way down to the earth. Once you're down, take a little wiggle of your hips from side to side. Untuck your toes. Press the tops of the feet into the floor, so much so you feel your kneecaps lift away. Send your tailbone to the back wall. Feel your belly button engage toward your spine. Wrap your shoulder blades onto your back. And then inhale, lift the heart forward and up, baby cobra. Exhale, lower back down. So a couple more of these on your own time, on your own breath. I really want you to keep your spine long. Right, so tuck the chin even. You're probably looking down rather than forward. Keep pressing the tops of the feet into the earth. Last breath here, last full round. All right, and when you come down, bring one cheek to the earth. Take a deep belly rest to release through your lower back. And then come back to center. All right, reach your left hand in front of you. Palm could be on the floor. I guess it's your left arm, not just your hand. Or you could come up onto fingertips. Press the top of the left foot into the earth. So the entire left side of the body is active. And then kick your right heel to your bum. This is a great place if you have a strap that you can use it to loop around the foot for the grab. Or maybe you're able to grab your foot either from the outside or the inside edge with your right hand. Wrap your shoulder blade onto your back and start to squeeze the bum a little bit. You'll feel that pressing the front of that right hip especially into the floor. And then the more you pull the heel in toward the bum, you might feel the right knee lift away from the earth slightly. So you're getting more quadriceps stretch here than hip flexors, but you are getting a little bit of both. This is a great place to stay if you're getting a lot of sensation through the top, so the top of the thigh on the right side. If you would like to, you might kick the foot away and come up into half bow. Back of the neck stays long. Really squeeze the bum. And then exhale, release all the way down. Bring the opposite cheek to the earth to balance out your neck. And then we'll switch sides. So bring your forehead back to center. Right arm reaches away in front of you, either palm to the floor or fingertips. Foot presses into the earth. And then kick your left heel to your bum. Either grab it from the outside or the inside edge. Inside edge is interesting because it makes it a lot harder to dip the shoulder forward. And then hug the heel into the bum. Squeeze your bum so the hips press into the earth. You might feel your kneecap or even your thigh lifting away a little bit from the floor. Again, this is a great place to stay if you're getting a lot of sensation through the quadriceps, or start to kick the foot away from you, coming into half bow. Again, back of the neck stays long. And then exhale. Release, bend your knees, take a little reverse windshield wiper of the legs. Plant your hands, tuck your toes, press yourself up either hands and knees, or downward facing dog, or child's pose. So about 4 or 5 breaths, wherever you need to go. All right, and if you're in child's pose, meet me either in hands and knees or downward facing dog. And then bend your knees, look forward, exhale, take as many steps as you need to come to the top edge of the mat into your standing forward fold. You could bring hands to blocks, or maybe you rest your elbows on your thighs. You could clasp opposite elbows with hands. You could sway a little bit from side to side. Just go wherever you need to go. Let your head hang heavy, neck long. And then bring your fingertips to your shins. Inhale, little partway lift, back of the neck stays long. Exhale, let it fold. 2 more. All right. And then bend your knees, tuck your chin into your chest, slowly start to roll up to standing, vertebra at a time, as slow as you need to go, till eventually you come all the way up. Take a couple loops of your shoulders, up, back, and down. A little shake out, noodle or wiggle. And then come back to your standing pose. Squeeze the bum a little bit more. Press the hips forward. So it's kind of an unnatural way to stand. Maybe you bring your palms to your low back. Right? That feels a little bit more like a yoga pose. Maybe your knuckles slide down. But just finding that little bit of opening through the front of the hips. All right, and then come back to center. Inhale, sweep the arms up to the sky. Maybe follow with your gaze. Exhale, release into your forward fold. Fingertips to shins. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, fold. On your inhale, step your right leg back. Release your knee to the floor or chip foam block. And then on your inhale, come up to half kneeling. All right, let's really get into the hip flexors now. So back out of the hips to start with. Hug your legs toward each other. Really squeeze your bum on the back leg. Belly button to spine. Shoulder blades on your back. Maintain all of that posture as then you start to shift into that front knee. Right? I'm not going super far, but I'm really getting a good release through the hip flexors on that back leg. By all means, if you prefer, to go into Anjaneyasana, you're welcome to, but I feel like it's less of a ham or hip flexor stretch than it is kind of like other things. Okay, squeeze the bum a little bit more on the back leg and then press the hips forward. You might press your palms forward on the front side, send your torso back, getting even more into those hip flexors. And then reach your arms up to the sky. Bend your right elbow. So the same elbow as the leg that's back. And then use your left hand, start to snuggle it in toward your head. So the upper arm snuggling in towards the head. You could stay here or inhale, lift a little bit higher. Exhale, a little side bend, minuscule side bend to the left. You could just have the forearms touching instead of having the elbow deeply bent. It's a little bit of triceps, a little bit of side body. For me, it just feels like it gets even deeper into the hip flexors. So you're not twisting to the left, you're leaning. All right, inhale, slowly unwind, and then shift your hips back as you extend through the front leg. And then inhale, rock forward again. So we're not necessarily going to get a deep hamstring stretch here. We're just mobilizing through the hips. Hands could be on hips or maybe blocks if that feels good for you. And sometimes after those long hold active stretches, it just feels good to move a little bit through those joints. So that's all we're doing here. All right. And then plant your hands, or rather, bring your fingertips to the floor and then step forward. Little wiggle or bounce or sway. Fingertips to shins, inhale, a little partway lift. Exhale, fold. On your inhale, step your left leg back this time and release your knee to the earth or any padding you might have. And then inhale, come on up to half kneeling again. Back out of the hips, get all those activations going, really particularly the squeeze of the bum on the back leg and the tall posture. Maintain all of those as you start to shift forward, right? So there's a lot going on, even though it doesn't really look like it, right? It's not like Warrior 2, where it looks like there's a lot going on, and there is. Here, there's a lot going on, but it doesn't really look like it. So again, you can play with the back toes untucked or tucked, but I really want you to squeeze the bum on the back leg. Maybe you press the palms forward to send the torso back a little bit more. Keep squeezing your bum on the back leg. All right, and then flip or reach your arms up to the sky. Bend your left elbow. Maybe you just grab your forearms, or maybe you use your right hand to snuggle that left upper arm in towards your head a little bit more. Option to stay here or inhale, lift. Exhale, a little side bend to the right. Keep squeezing the bum on the left side. Keep breathing. Woo. It's a little bit wobbly sometimes. All right, inhale, come back to center. Exhale, shift your hips back as you extend through the front leg. Hands could be on hips or maybe the wall if you have one nearby, or blocks. But again, we're just going to keep shifting a little bit between half splits and low lunge. And again, just mobilizing those joints, lubricating them a little bit, flushing out any things, right, byproducts of metabolism that need to be flushed out. And then plant your hands and then swing your right leg underneath you. Come back to hands and knees, a little wiggle, cat and cow. All right, and then shift your hands forward or your knees back, and then come on into your plank again, either from your knees or from your toes. And then exhale, lower all the way down to the earth. A little wiggle of the hips from side to side. Untuck your toes. Press the tops of the feet into the floor. Belly button to spine, shoulder blades on your back. Inhale, reach the heart forward and up, baby cobra. You can stay here or your arms could reach along behind you, either palms up or down, or you might clasp your hands. Some of you might start to reach your feet, your toes so far back that the legs de-weight as well, hugging everything into the center line for locust pose. Or maybe you kick both heels toward your bum, grab the ankles from the outside edge, hug the legs toward each other, really squeeze the bum, and then pull back the feet or the ankles with your hands to lift the thighs, kick the feet into the hands to lift the torso, and exhale, release all the way down. One cheek to the earth. Deep belly breaths to release through your lower back. And then roll over onto your back. Once you're down, draw your knees into your chest and take a little rock from side to side. Let's move into a twist, which always feels good after back bends. So you might take your right arm out to the side. You could shift your hips right a little bit. And then as you exhale, lower your knees to the left. Any variation of twist that you want to go into. Knees could be stacked, legs could be crossed. You could take a single leg twist. Right, as deep or as gentle as you need. Let your feet really rest on the floor though. So if they're hovering, you're doing more work than you need to. Last breath here. All right. And on your inhale, return to center. Reset your pelvis and your spine. Maybe you shift the hips left a little bit. Left arm goes out to the side. Exhale, lower your knees to the right. And again, as gentle or as deep of a twist as you need on this side. As always, doesn't need to be the same variation that you do from one side to the other. And then on your inhale, return to center. Hook both knees toward you now. You could stay here with one hand on each leg, or you could clasp your hands over top of your shins. And you might stay here. You might gently curl your nose toward your knees, or you might press your shins up to the sky. And then exhale, release it all down to the mat for your final resting pose. This might be where you stay. You could rest on your side or in child's pose, wherever you need to go. And there's no rush to get there. But once you have found your pose of rest for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose. Exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more. And then with each exhale, let your body melt a little bit deeper into the earth. With each with each breath, return to your natural breath. So let go of the breath control. Let go of any last muscle gripping or tension. And then stay here longer if you can, 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.